Okay, now we'll start recording.
Perfect.
I'll start with the music. So,
Recording in progress.
welcome to Habs Unfiltered. This independent podcast is featured on the Hockey Writers and iHeartRadio, bringing you honest and unfiltered entertainment and discussion on the Montreal Canadiens and hockey news. Your hosts, Matt Smith, Treg Wilson, and Blaine Putvin, are proud to be one of your trusted sources. If you are talking about it, so are we. And welcome to the 300th episode of Habs Unfiltered. I'm your host, Blaine Putvin, and I'm joined now by my co-host, Matt Smith.
Good evening.
Treg Wilson cannot be with us because he was actually at the game with his wife. So they went to the Corral Center out in Canada and watched tonight's game against the Senators. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're doing the post-game show now. It is nearly 11 o'clock here on the Atlantic coast. And we'll get into talking about the Ottawa Senators game. We'll talk a little bit about the Anaheim game coming up tomorrow and maybe some other odds and ends. But let's just jump right in to this Senators game. The Canadiens fell behind, made a game of it, but in the end came up short, losing 3-2. Now, Matt, give us some thoughts of what you saw.
Well, it was definitely not a performance that I'd be proud of if I was an NHL official. But if Gary Bettman says that they're the best in the world, right? So
he also said that everybody likes the digital ads on the boards.
Oh Jesus, yeah, I just shook my head when I read that today on Spit and Chicklets. But yeah, honestly, and we talked about this a little bit off air. This would have been a whole different game. It would have been a much more exciting game. And I kind of feel bad for Treg for the game that he saw, this being his first NHL game, that it had to be dictated by officiating in the second period. And you know what? The Slafkovsky penalty, you can call that a penalty. That's the second time this season they've taken one of those closing your hand on the puck penalties that I've noticed, at least. The other being, I believe, to Suzuki. But the call on Doc, it was a stick-on-stick play. And then you get a board battle. The puck's right there. Doc goes in on a big guy like Tkachuk and lands a clean hit. And I'd be upset if I was Doc too. If I finished my check and the officials were really letting different aspects of the game go, but they were cracking down on some calls that really didn't need to be made. And the fact that the double minor was called, it just was like a parade to the penalty box for the Canadiens. It really just brought all the momentum. Like they had no momentum in the second period. They couldn't find any momentum. I'm not going to say that they were scared to be physical or scared to engage, but it really seemed that way because everything was getting called. And it's kind of hard to defend in your own zone without being able to use your stick or your body.
Well, the Canadiens have been kind of formulaic throughout the season so far in that they come out strong in the first. They usually can't really finish for whatever reason. They get some good chances, but just can't bury. Then in the second period, they completely crap the bed. And in the third, they come back and make a game of it. So that's pretty much been the MO all season long. And that's exactly what we saw.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we saw tonight.
Yeah.
And you're right. They lost all momentum in the second because you can call it undisciplined play. You can call it poor game management.
I could say a little bit of both. Like I
Yeah.
can say a little bit of both on that and say that Slavkovsky should know better, right? He should know better. But at the same time, I said, you look at those calls that were on Doc. I don't think either of those were a penalty. And the fact that the refs got their feelings hurt after he slammed the door and everything, gave him the extra 2 minutes. I just think it was unwarranted. I think they just had their feelings hurt, and 7 power plays I think that Ottawa got in the game or something. It's ridiculous, right?
And that was the difference in the game, was special teams.
Yeah.
The Canadians basically carried the play at 5-on-5. They had a positive possession stats, over 50% Corsi, Fenwick. They had an edge in scoring chances for, all at 5-on-5. So the Canadians, had they kept it at 5-on-5 throughout the second period, this would be a different game. But special teams failed them. They could not score on a power play in the third, and their penalty killing. I mean, they did have some good kills, but they gave up 2 pretty quick goals there, and that kind of put them behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, and when the chances came, the post found the puck instead. With Harris in the first period, and then poor Armia. Like, the guy can't buy a goal. It's the same thing as Evans, who, I'll give a shout out to him. I think he played a pretty decent game, especially with that pass to Doc for the first goal. But like, Armia cannot buy a goal, and we're noticing like the guys hitting posts, the guys getting robbed, etc. Right, and like it'll come eventually, but I can see why there's certain fans out there that want to see this guy sit. But as of right now, like, he's still a very good penalty killer. He's still a very good guy to have on the boards. It's just he's got no finish. He is finished
for what he's being paid.
Yes,
he needs to score some goals.
Exactly.
He needs to score some goals.
Yeah,
he's being paid $3.4 million. Being a penalty killer is great, but he's a fourth liner with no offense,
right,
at $3.4 million.
Right.
That's unacceptable.
Yeah.
And having Drouin play center for him tonight, we saw a little bit more of an offensive jump in his game overall.
Yeah.
Thanks to Drouin and some very, very slick passing.
Right.
But you're right. He seems snake bitten for whatever reason. There's some kind of a curse. Maybe they got to get Serrano to get some chicken, sacrifice a chicken on, rub it on his hockey stick, something, anything.
Yeah. Speaking of Drouin, though, like, for a guy that came back from, he hasn't played for weeks, comes back, has a pretty solid game, gets a decent scoring chance that draws a penalty. Again, they weren't able to capitalize on it. Overall, he played a pretty structured game. I thought he made some solid passes. He had some good looks. He had a couple shots on net. Still can't win faceoffs to save his life. He only took a handful, but he still can't win a faceoff. But unfortunately, what the thing that fans are going to remember from this game is really the final 15 seconds or so, with him not being able to accept a pass at the blue line. And that's
which
what
I think is unfair.
It is, and like that's why I bring it up. It is unfair. You look at his game as a whole. I thought that he played a pretty good game for being out for quite a while, especially in a fourth line role. With Armia, who again snake bitten, can't do a damn thing, and Pizzetta. So for him to bobble the puck, he's not the reason they lost the game. Can we say that maybe they could have got another scoring chance? Could there have been a jam play at the net or something if he would have been able to throw it on net? Who knows? We don't. And for anyone to say that he cost them the game is, didn't watch the same game as I did.
No, and 30 seconds before that play at the blue line where it got past him, he did make a pass across through a crowd that generated a scoring opportunity that just didn't get it didn't materialize,
Right.
but he did generate something right before that. So, I mean, he only played 12:39.
Yep.
So fourth line role, fourth line center. He created some offensive opportunities throughout the game several times. You can say that maybe had he been playing with someone other than Armia, that
Yeah.
one or two of those might have been translated into a goal. And defensively, he wasn't that bad. Like he played a solid game. Like you said, he'd been out for, what was it, 3 weeks?
Right.
He hadn't played in about 3 weeks. First game back. And you're going up against division rival. Ottawa's always pumped to play the Canadians, especially when they're on the road playing against the Habs in the Corral Center. Because that was definitely, that was definitely a Habs centric crowd.
It was. You can tell.
As always.
Yeah.
Because it's Ottawa. But overall, despite the fact that they completely lost control of the game in the second because of the calls, because of the undisciplined play, and their special teams kind of not quite being up to snuff, despite that, we did see some really good things. In the third, Slafkovsky generated a really nice play, getting that secondary assist, getting on that first goal from Doc. Suzuki's no-look saucer pass to Dvorak in that bumper position. Now that was on a delayed penalty, and that goal I know is not going to get signed off as a power play goal, even though they were 6-on-5. But that's something that they can take that and maybe build some confidence towards the power play, because that's a power play type of play. Because he was one-timer in the bumper. It's a position that they put Dvorak in from time to time. And of course, Suzuki just absolutely pulling off a slick, beautiful play like that just to generate that goal.
Right. And you know what? Another thing I'll say about taking away from the game, seeing that they were shorthanded so much, they were able to watch from the bench quite a bit what Ottawa was doing on the power play. And they were getting a lot of passes right in front of Montembeault. And, take it, take these notes. It worked for them. They got some bodies in front of the net. We saw later on, when Tkachuk scored that goal, and then later on we saw Slafkovsky go in front of the net, which we don't usually see. They did the same thing. Let's throw our big guy in front of the net.
Well, that's Slafkovsky in front of the net. He started that power play in the third on the main unit, and he was the net front presence, and he almost tipped in a goal. Yeah. There was a nice pass. He made a good tip, just missed.
Yeah.
But we saw Tkachuk in front of the net all night long, and the Canadiens' power play is missing Monahan. Monahan played that role, and when he was in there, the power play looked a little bit more dangerous.
Right. And the Canadiens are also missing Savard and Matheson, who could have done could have helped, especially Savard when it comes to the penalty kill and sacrificing his body when needed type thing, right? This isn't a knock on Edmondson and Gooley. Both of them played, one played 23, almost 24. And Gooley played 5 seconds shy of 22 minutes tonight. So good on them. They were both +2. But when it comes down to it, you're missing 2 of your top 4. You're still missing Monahan. You're still missing Gallagher, and Ottawa was missing some players as well. However, it should have been. I felt like it should have been a better performance overall, especially in the opening minutes. I was happy that Caulfield came out flying after leaving the Calgary game, and 3 shots in the opening 10 minutes or so. Unfortunately for us, he only had 1 more shot after that. He still looked dangerous at times, but I found the top line was kind of mediocre tonight.
Yeah, they seemed quiet.
Normally
they're a very high danger type of line, but we didn't see that.
No, It was kind of like score or shoot here, shoot here. He did like
Yeah.
no one really stood out tonight to me other than Doc. And
Yeah.
Doc played with some intensity tonight. He threw that hit. Yes, it was a penalty. He was fired up, cost him another penalty. But he scored the goal, and you saw the intensity in his face, and he was the guy that's really stood out for me for the game. And I can say the same thing even about Drouin. Like, again, people are going to look at the last 10, 15 seconds of the game. They're going to blame it on him. But if he can take this game, go into Anaheim tomorrow, or go into the game against Anaheim tomorrow, and play with that sort of skill set, it could be a nice bounce back game for them, with likely Jake Allen back in net.
Yeah, I would expect Jake Allen in net for the game tomorrow against Anaheim. But for tonight, in watching Sam Montembeault play, he had a pretty good bounce back game for himself. After that game, his last game that he played, where he looked absolutely horrible, this one, he looked solid. And that's especially considering the fact that he didn't see a shot until about the 12th minute of the first period.
Right. The first one he probably would want back. He didn't have a chance, didn't really have a chance on the second and third, but the first one, definitely a savable puck.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean,
he's
the first
he's exceeded expectations this season.
True.
But in these last few starts, he's starting to come back kind of to norm. He's still making more saves than what he did last season, and he's still, and it's a different defensive structure, it's a different mentality, etc. However, in his last couple games, he hasn't been that game saver that they had in the first few games of the season. However,
well, I mean,
he's still exceeding expectations for a backup.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the first 8 games of the season, he was putting up numbers for an all-star starter.
Right.
It was well beyond anything that anyone could possibly expect from him long term. And what we saw tonight was the play of a good backup goaltender. He did enough to keep the Canadians in the game.
He gave them a chance. He gave them a chance.
And that's what you want from your backup.
Right. And if it hadn't been for getting peppered with so many power play shots, you never know. You never know what the outcome could have been.
That was definitely the big difference, is that power play. And Doc's play is showing a progression. I like where his game is going. I know there's some discussion on whether or not he'll play center or wing or whatever, but I don't care. The way he is playing,
I like him at the wing. And it's
whether he plays wing or center.
It's unfortunate Monahan had to go down when he did. I feel that when Monahan comes back, he's right back into that spot. And you're likely going to they're going to probably try that Anderson Slav, or maybe Anderson Gallagher, or maybe Anderson Drouin, who knows, right? But it was working.
But overall, I like Doc's game.
I do too.
For me, it's not whether he's at center or on the wing. That intensity that he showed tonight, that he was in the game. He was completely he bought in, and that's what I like seeing. And I saw a progression for Slavkovsky as well. There was that one play, I can't remember if it was the first or second period, but Austin Watson had him lined up.
Yeah,
he was ready to murder him.
He finally put his head up.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, like he's starting to play with his head up,
and he has to do that. Like he's used to being the big boy on the ice. I guess he played against men in Slovakia, but he was still used to being the big boy in a league that that's not as physical, obviously, as the NHL. And
on a larger ice surface too.
On a larger ice surface where he's got a lot more time to be creative. And I'm happy that he didn't get hit. Let's just say that.
Yeah. The sidestepping the hit, that was a big deal. Because that is an aspect of the game that he didn't have last week. Like we're seeing him layer new skill sets on top of his older ones and integrating them all. I mean, that time he spent with Adam Nicholas learning to do the return, the cutbacks with his head up.
Yep.
We've seen it pay off in the last couple of games with him generating two goals. I mean, that goal that he set up for Anderson in the game prior to this was an absolute beauty. I mean, Treg mentioned it between periods to us on our little private chat that we have, that his passes, every single one, were tape to tape.
Yeah. And we're seeing progression in this game. We saw some times that he's been struggling or not having his head up and being hit or that kind of stuff. We've seen it a little bit too much so far this season. However, his game as a whole is starting to develop. He's starting to put up the points. He's up to 10 points, I believe now. Something like that, right? And I like to see the progression in his game, and it's going to build his confidence and putting him out there on the first power play unit. And he's not, he's not afraid to shoot the puck, or he's not afraid to really make a mistake, right? He's still forcing the puck a little bit too much, but he's still a young player, and I'll kind of let the leash out a little bit on that. But I'm liking what I'm seeing of his game. Like he's still young. Everyone remember that he's still 18 years old. Yes, he's a first overall pick, but he's still 18. He's still learning this game.
Yeah, and Slovakia today announced their final roster for the World Juniors. He is not on it. I'm not surprised, considering the way he has been playing and what he needs for his development. Because going back to the World Juniors, I mean, what's he going to learn? You'll play 4 games at most with Slovakia, because I don't see them being a real gold medal threat.
No.
So he'll play 4 games in a month.
Yeah.
It's not to mention he is, like you mentioned earlier, he's going to be the big boy on the ice again.
Yeah.
And he's not going to learn that aspect of the game that we've all seen that he needs, is to learn to keep your head up, start to make plays, play at an NHL pace. You don't learn that at the World Juniors.
Right.
So I'm glad that he is getting more ice time. He was over 13 minutes in this game. He got power play time. He was playing with some offensive-minded players at different points through the game, and he's learning how to generate that offense through his one-on-one battles, winning his battles along the boards, and learning how to take the puck and cut towards the net in the offensive zone. Defensively, he's got some work to do still, but those points that I mentioned offensively bode very well for him, especially going forward.
Yeah, agreed.
Now I'm looking at the ice time, and Jack-Eye didn't get a lot. He really didn't. He was just under 14 minutes. This seems to me as if it's St. Louis managing the roster in preparation for a two games in 2 nights.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. But at the same time, they both took shitty penalties. That pairing both took shitty penalties.
True.
Right.
True.
Jack-Eye took one where he just kind of headlocked the guy and it led to a call. And then Weidman, you can say that he tripped Batherson. I think Batherson went down a little bit too easy, but again, that pairing each took a penalty.
It's almost like they were doing a memorial for Stützle.
Yeah, in their own,
going down easy.
Yeah, in their own. And that's that's the thing. You get that many power plays, and Stützle wasn't even playing. Imagine if he was.
Speaking of going down, Jack-Eye giving Tkachuk a tiny little shove in front of the net, and he went down like he was shot.
Yeah,
it's clear to me that Jack-Eye is being targeted. He's being singled out, and they're trying to goad him. And Tkachuk is he's one of the best in the league for that kind of that aspect of the game.
Yeah.
He can go just about anybody. And you could tell that was his goal. And he went down easy trying to get that call. And I mean, as much as everybody else hates seeing that, I can't name one Habs fan that would say, you know what? I don't want that guy. Everybody wants him.
Yeah.
But that's still a pussy play.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
And it's horrible because it was done against the Canadians. But had they been done for the Canadians, hey, yay. But the fact that Jack Guy is being singled out and targeted in that manner shows that he's building that reputation and that he's going to become an even more important piece for the Canadians. I mean, even Chris Nyland on the Raw Knuckles podcast, the last couple of shows, has pointed out that just his mere presence and the fact that if the team knows that he will stand up for them, they can play a little bit bigger.
Right.
That intimidation factor does still exist in the NHL, and he brings it.
Yeah.
Now, what kind of aspects do they really need that against Anaheim tomorrow night? I don't think so.
I wouldn't say
But-
so. I wouldn't say so, but it's still a good to have.
Yeah.
Right. It's still a good to
I-
have. They still have some guys that'll drop the gloves, like Bolio plays for them now. Bolio really, honestly, like, not the biggest guy in the world, but he'll drop the gloves with anybody, and he's kind of turned into that kind of player. They still got
Yep.
Max Jones. Max Jones is a pretty thick boy, and then you got Sima Benoit as well, right? That'll do the same thing. So I don't think they're gonna have that issue, but coming off a 7-0 loss and being
they got
right,
their asses handed
right,
to them.
but coming off a 7-0 loss, your goals for is second worst in the league, and your goals against is the worst in the league.
And you're literally at the bottom of the league.
Literally at the bottom of the league. And you're coming off, you're going against a team that just played the night before. If I'm Anaheim, I'm coming out flying as fast as I can. So we'll see what
No pun intended.
we'll see what comes of it. But at the same time, if I'm the Canadians, I use this as one of those feel good games. You come out flying and you beat the piss out of the worst team in the league and take every advantage
that's the
that you
thing.
can, right? And then all of a sudden you go into Saturday's game. I don't even know who they're playing. Tampa, maybe.
I think it is, yeah.
Right. I'd have to look, but
I have to look, yeah.
right. But you're going into Saturday's game, and you're back on a winning track.
Now I'm looking at the Anaheim Ducks. I know they're the 32nd place team, but that's a trap game.
Yeah.
They're already in Montreal.
Yeah.
They've had the night off, and they've had a night to kind of let it digest and lick their wounds after that huge loss against Toronto. Not to mention they got shut out the game before against Ottawa. So they've given up 10 or 11 goals in the two games, haven't scored any, and the Canadians played the night before.
Right.
So
This is
I
your
would
chance.
it's the opening. That's why it's a trap game for Montreal. You got Strome playing, you got Zegras, who's going to be playing against his former Team USA teammate, and Cole Caulfield, Maxime Comtois returning home.
Troy
You got
Terry.
Mason McTavish. They've got really good players, but they're in that rebuild.
Yes.
What I'm going to be very interested to see is how John Klingberg plays.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be front and center. And with him on that 1-year deal, he was signed solely to be traded.
Yeah.
So he's out east. He's playing in probably the largest stage on the East Coast in the NHL. There'll be a ton of scouts. If he puts in a really solid effort, that could help Anaheim in moving him. But overall, I'm expecting tomorrow night's game against Anaheim. As we record, it's tomorrow night. When this show comes out, it'll be tonight. But I'm expecting an entertaining, high-paced game between these two teams.
Yeah. After I think Gibson played the other night when he was kind of lit up by Toronto. I think it was Gibson that played. So I'm not gonna assume, but I'm gonna say probably you're gonna see Stollers, who's their backup. So it
He
might
did
be
get hurt a bit.
right, but it might be an opportunity for the Canadians. It really can be. Like the guys that have been snake bitten, take advantage of a low scoring team, take advantage of one of the worst teams in the league, and don't be that team that allows the worst team in the league to get the upper hand. Right? If I'm a Jake Evans, if I'm a Yoel Armia, if I'm one of these guys, I'm circling this game and I'm like, this is the game. I'm potting one. I'm throwing that damn monkey off my back, and it's gonna be, it's gonna be better sailing moving forward.
Not to mention, you're looking at Slavkovsky's probably going to be paired up against Mason McTavish's line. So he's got Comtois and Leeson on his line. So those are
the sizable
more
one.
They're a big line, but they're more contemporaries for Slavkovsky. They're closer to his age.
Right.
And they play a style that fits him. So this could be a good game for him to kind of show. And not to mention, it'd be a good game for him to get some more ice time because he only played 13 minutes.
Yep.
And in a back-to-back situation, he could probably pick up a few more minutes and take some of the burden off guys like Caulfield and Suzuki, and the heavier ice time players.
Right.
Maybe give him a better role, more power play time if they ever get a power play.
Right.
Because if Chris Lee's roughing, forget it. They'll be shorthanded the whole game.
Yeah.
But so I don't know. I'm going to do a fun thing. I'll make a prediction. I'm predicting a high scoring game, a ton of back and forth. So 5-4, 4-3 type of game, but more, I think 5-4. And I think the Canadians do pull it out.
I'm gonna say they're gonna pull it out, but they're not gonna let up as many goals. I think Allen's gonna come in. I think he's gonna be dialed in. I think the team's gonna rally around him, and they're gonna want to say, we got the short end of the stick against the Sens. Let's go put up a good effort before we really take on a contender in the Tampa Bay Lightning on Saturday, which I've now looked up, and they are playing on Saturday. But yeah, I'll throw a prediction out there too, and I'll even stick with 5, but I'll say 5-1.
Okay. Now I'm going to do an over under here. Over under on how many times Zegras tries the Michigan.
Oh fuck! I'm tired of that fucking thing.
Oh, is it more than 2?
Oh, he'll probably try it a dozen times, and it'll be all over fucking social media. Hey, what? Good on the Michigan and good on some of these plays and everything. I gotta say, I'm fucking tired of seeing it every time. Yes, it's a nice goal, but I don't give a hell. I'm sorry, but I don't give a fuck. And I've swore 9 times now. But if some kid in AA in Saskatchewan pulls off the Michigan, I don't need to see it on TSN the next morning. Good for the kid, but I don't need to see it. It's
become a standard offensive play now.
It has. It's an over. It's like you used to see it every now and then, and it was like, oh well, that was cool. That was pretty awesome. Now it's like everybody's doing it. And you're like, okay, did I need to see that? I don't think so. Right.
Well, I do expect Zegras to maybe create some offense in a
very
very unorthodox way.
Yeah, the guy's an incredible playmaker. He's very gifted with the puck, and the things that he can do with the stick are unbelievable. But I'm not trying to sound like Tortorella or anything, but I don't need to see it every game. or I don't need to see it so widely broadcasted. Let's just say that.
If he gives it a shot, and I'll say if, because we all know he's going to do it. Who feeds him a shot in the face? Is it going to be Jack Eye or is it going to be Edmondson?
I don't know. I think it'll be whoever's out there, and hopefully they just drop their shoulder into him. But, but you know what? Like, as I said, like I don't want to be that guy. Like I love to see skilled hockey, and there's a lot of skill in the league, and these skilled players, they have a place in the league.
Absolutely.
At the same time, some of these guys get a little bit too much space, and players feel, oh, fucking this guy's got the puck, so I'll give him the space to be able to dangle around me, and then I'll be on Sports Center the next morning because the guy just walked around me, right? Instead of just being like, I'm gonna treat this guy like any other player and use my body or my stick to disrupt a play.
Well, with guys like that, you really have to mark them closer.
Oh, absolutely.
And to discourage skilled players from pulling off high skill plays, especially high danger plays like that, you got a tighter gap and be very physical with them. So that's my expectation for whatever plan defensively the Canadians have, is to mark Zegras heavily.
Like I said, I don't want Zegras to get hurt. I'm not saying that.
No.
Right? He's a very good player. He's a very skilled player. But again, when it comes to that move in particular, I am personally tired of seeing it every time I put a sports channel on, right?
Now, with that defensive plan in mind, where they're going to be marking Zegras, I think that is going to open up opportunities for McTavish to really shine. He showed what he can do in the World Juniors last year. He is a high skill player as well.
Yeah.
He's more of a traditional skill player with more of a power type center.
Yep.
So that fits well in games against the Canadians. So I'm expecting to see some fun things from him too.
Yep.
But at the same time, Dvorak's been playing well recently. We mentioned Doc earlier. Suzuki is consistently excellent. It's almost as if he's a sustainable star.
You think?
Yep. Superior propane style.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much it that I was going to bring up in the show. Do you have any final thoughts?
Oliver Kapanen was named to Team Finland today. Another addition to the junior team. So for our listeners out there, go out there, check out the rosters. You're going to see a lot of Canadians prospects on there. Unfortunately, I know you guys talked about this in your last show. But unfortunately, Kidney was hurt. Couldn't really have a showing that he wanted to, didn't make the roster. Beck, you're going against guys like Fantilli and Stankoven and Wright and all the Bedard, etc. He had a chance, but it was one of those outside looking in things. But be excited for the guys that did make it. Be excited for the guys that made it from different countries, and make sure you watch them during the juniors, because it's honestly, it's some of the best hockey you're going to watch.
I know I'll be there to see it.
But honestly, it's some of the best hockey you're going to watch throughout the year.
Will you be home during Christmas and go to Moncton, watch games there?
If I can make it to a game, I will. I don't know what my schedule is going to look like when I'm home, but I'd like to see the US play. I think they're in Finland's group.
Yes.
So that would probably
They're in Moncton.
that would probably be the big matchup in that group. Because Sweden's in Canada's group in Halifax, right? So so that would probably be the big game to watch. So we'll see.
Yeah, and good news is I left Moncton as I found it. I did not burn anything. Everything's fine after being there last weekend. So
all right.
Good news for you guys.
Appreciate it.
And for me, I just want to thank everybody for listening. Thank you guys for interacting with us. Please keep the emails and the comments coming. Email us at habsunfiltered@outlook.com. Find us on any social media platform. We're on all the new stuff now, Mastodon and the Post, and you can find us just about everywhere. So just keep sending us some comments. If you have suggestions, you got ideas, you just want to chirp Treg for, I don't know, having the wrong types of tattoos, throw it in there. But I really want to thank everyone for listening and for making us one of the for helping us grow the show as much as it has in the last year. So thank you. And remember, if you're talking about it, so are we.
Hurt.
Into our YouTube watchers,